That's the keyword. Okay. And pattern repeats itself in a recognizable way. Okay. Can be numbers, it can be images, alphabets, designs. Okay. It's a consistent recurring characteristic. Okay. So can you give an example of a pattern? Those who have joined newly. Can you give an example of a pattern?
So a pattern can be anything like a string of YouTube videos that you watch. So an AI would be able to pick up a pattern in that.
Okay. Okay. Kind of. Yes. Meena, what do you think is a pattern? Can you give any examples from your economics background? Oh, your audio doesn't work. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. My question is, let me ask you, can you give an example of pattern from your knowledge or experience? Okay. Some of the examples we saw in yesterday's class, right? Pattern is an inborn characteristic. Pattern is an inborn characteristic of humans, right? In fact, a kid as early as the 7th month is able to identify the pattern and either cries or smiles, right, at familiar or non-familiar faces. Pattern can be in a DNA sequence. That's a good example, right? Good example, Meena. So we are talking of this consistent recurring characteristic, and we are going to uncover these patterns in data using software, right? Why we have to use software? So let's take some examples. Pattern is everywhere, right? You can see in a leaf, you can see in a bead. In fact, this is what is known as a Fibonacci series from Da Vinci Code, right? So this gets repeated, right? These patterns get repeated everywhere in nature, right? So caveman has used patterns to identify whether something is dangerous or not, right? And accordingly took some decisions. So you see that pattern is at the core of learning, right? If you are trying to learn, right? First you learned individual letters, right? Then you learned words, then you learned sentences, then you went to paragraphs, and then you went to reading books. So this process happened over a long period of time, right? So if I can teach a computer and take the computer or the software through this process, the computer will be able to read, right? Not just letters, not just sentences, not just paragraphs, but an entire book. So we are trying to make the software learn the process of identifying patterns. That's what we are going to do, right? Because some of the patterns are easy for us to spot and some patterns are difficult to note, right? If you see this particular pattern, right, 1, 3, 5, 7, the next numbers are obvious for us, right? 9 and 11, because I'm going for every alternate odd number, right? There is a pattern in this. So now, can someone tell me what is the pattern? Oh, I have the answer also here. If you see this, the pattern is in this particular text. The pattern is AABA. Okay. The pattern in this is what is called as AABA. How many of you are able to spot this pattern? Can you tell me how many of you are able to spot the pattern in this?
I can spot the pattern in this.
You can spot, okay.
Oh, the pattern.
I missed one of the slides, so I could have asked this. Good, good. If you're able to spot, well and good, well and good. But ask yourself, are you able to spot this pattern? Are you able to spot 3 patterns that are there? How many of you are able to spot 3 patterns? That is 3, it's appearing 3 times, okay? It's one pattern that is appearing 3 times. Did you spot the occurrence of this pattern AA, BA 3 times? If you've spotted, well and good, right? So the point I'm making is, while 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, right? I'm able to do it easily. For a 15-letter sequence, I'm kind of struggling. Yes or no? I'm struggling, right? For a 15-letter sequence.
Yeah.
Right? We are struggling. And that's the fact, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
right? So, which is why we are going to make use of software. Right? Which is why we are going to make use of software. I'll just check Meena. Do you want to check your audio? Or are you able to hear us? Okay. Okay, your end of audio. Okay, that's at least better. Fine, fine. Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is patterns are recognizable. That's the core of it. It is just that some patterns are easy to recognize, some patterns are difficult to recognize. But what is inherent in a pattern? A consistent recurring characteristic. Right? A consistent recurring characteristic is at the core of any pattern. So whatever data, whatever problem you are going to work on, either as a software developer or as a mathematician or as an application, AI application specialist, right? You are going to work on identifying patterns. AI is all about pattern identification. Remember what I said? This is the dominant mode of AI. And with this, we are solving many problems. And I also said that this is a core human characteristic, right? We are going to teach this human characteristic to software. Okay. So you're now understanding where this is all fitting, right?
Yep.
So some patterns are easy to spot, some patterns are difficult to spot. Please note that, but every pattern is recognizable. So imagine if I have 1 million letters in the sequence. Can I do it? I cannot do it. I need to rely on software. Right? And software is faster. It's more accurate. Right? So you understand? So AI is all about pattern recognition. Please understand that. Whatever you are trying to do, core of AI is pattern recognition. Once you have identified the pattern, you use it for future. I use historical data to understand patterns. Right? Can you give any example from your real life, from your everyday life? What kind of pattern you can give? Any examples?
So a person's everyday routine can be considered as a pattern.
Correct. Everyday routine can be a pattern. Yes. Any other example?
Whenever the mailman or mail woman comes.
Right?
Circle of life.
whenever they come, what happens? Sorry.
So my mailman, he comes every single day exactly at 1 o'clock.
Okay. Okay. That's a pattern. Yes. That's indeed a pattern. Any other example?
Can online class timings be a pattern?
Yeah, online class timings can be a pattern.
Yep.
Brushing teeth every morning. Yes, Meena. Right? Brushing teeth every morning is a pattern, right? What about this? You study for X number of hours and you get certain marks, right? Or you get a certain grade. Do you think there can be a pattern in this? You're all students, right? Some of you may be studying for half an hour, that's 30 minutes, or some could be studying for 2 hours.
Yeah, the marks depend on the amount of work inputted.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's also a pattern, right? In fact, that's one of the first examples we are going to take, subsequently. Can I spot a pattern between the number of hours I study and the marks I obtain? And once I've spotted the pattern, if I tell the software, hey, software, I study for 2.5 hours, can you tell me the marks I will get? So the system is going to tell you that. You're going to develop, you're going to see for yourself, right? It's in fact one of the simplest of exercises, but very, very interesting ones, right? I believe all of you can relate to it, right? Because you all study and you all want, want better marks, right? Is it also true that after a certain threshold, there is no pattern, right? Maybe it keeps on increasing until say 3 hours. After 3 hours, whether you study 4 hours or 6 hours, maybe it doesn't matter. The needle doesn't move that much, right?
Yeah.
That's also a pattern.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe it keeps on increasing until 3 hours, or maybe it's 2 hours, or maybe it is 2.5 hours. That we will let the software figure it out. Right? So, basis the number of hours I study, I am able to determine the marks I obtain. Okay? So, pattern recognition is at the core of AI. So, all the problems that we are talking about, the AI solutions, they all work based on this pattern recognition. And pattern recognition is a human characteristic. It's something that we develop right from, as young as 6 months, right? So it is this characteristic that we are going to teach the computer. So the computer learns, once the computer has learned the process of identifying patterns in the historical data, the computer can then, the computer or the software can use that learning, okay, and make decisions for the future.